What's up, y'all? Shout out to Antonio Mosley. He's a viewer of Willie D. This is Willie D's channel, and we had a back and forth in Willie D's comment section. Now, let me set things up, all right. This still shot right here is a video that Willie D played on his channel of this guy right here trying to holler apparently at this woman right here. Ass out and everything else. Have more respect for yourself, lady. Anyway, this guy tries to holler at her. She turns him down. But she called him a bitch. Now, the thing is this right here. I actually saw this video. Willie D was saying that he wasn't going to put up the entire video, but I saw the video in his description. He actually had the full video in his description. So, I saw the video. Now, this guy is basically following these women. This happened in Vegas, right? This is Las Vegas. The video starts off with him trailing this group of women. They're basically trying to get away from him. He walks up. This chick starts talking all kind of mad noise to him. And he throws a right cross and knocks her ass out. And he runs off. Now, in that comment section, I'm looking like, yo, man, this guy here's a simp. He's a super simp. Now, Antonio, he basically replies, and he's like, hey, man, this guy isn't a simp. A simp is somebody who's going to give everything and give nothing in return from these women. Hey, I couldn't argue with him. I'm like, hey, man, I give you that. But I told Antonio, hey, there's different levels when it comes to this thing called simping. Okay. Now, check this out, Antonio. What if you got a guy that tries to holler at the same female, and he walks up and he's like, hey, can I get your number? And no, you're not good enough for me, blah, 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 this and that. And he's like, oh, come on now. I'll treat you right, this and that, this and that. Give me a chance. That would definitely be a sin. Okay. Let's have another scenario. Let's say there's another guy that walks up to the same female, and he's like, hey, can I get your number? And she tells him the same thing. You're not good enough for me. Get away from me. And he's like, whatever. And he walks off. Is he a simp? He wouldn't be a simp. He brushed that off. He was like, whatever, man. I ain't got to have nothing to do with you. You wouldn't call him a simp, right? But the first guy that's groveling at her knees, hey, oh, come on, don't turn me down. I'll give you the world, blah, blah, blah. Then I could understand you calling that guy a simp. All right? We're in agreement with that, right? Okay. You got a scenario like this, where this guy walks up and he's trying to holler. He gets turned down. Now, if you look at the video, we didn't actually see the first interaction with these people. But when you look at the video, it's clear to see that these women are trying to get away from this guy. He's trailing them like a little puppy dog. Hey, man, the woman already told you she don't want nothing to do with you. Why the hell is you still following behind him? So he walks up. I mean, look, I'm not speaking highly on this woman's logic for coming out and calling him all kind of names and coming out of her face, you know, talking all kind of noise to this guy. I mean, it's obvious that her logic is flawed. But he turns around and knocks her out. You see, there's different levels when it comes to simping. For instance, Willie D was talking about another story where there was a chick, she was riding like in the park with like her man. She was actually with her man. They was like on bicycles or whatever. So you got this car that hits the corner and this dude is catcalling this woman with her man right there. She don't want nothing to do with this guy. What does he do? He makes the block, comes back around and shoots this woman in the leg. Could have killed her. Now, when I talked about there's different levels of simping, that's the type of shit I'm talking about, Antonio. You get that far into your feelings that now it's time to shoot somebody? You resort to violence because this woman don't want nothing to do with you? That is what I call a super simp. That is a super simp. Just like this guy. He resorts to violence because this woman wants nothing to do with him. If you look at the video, you see this group of women actually trying to get away from him, and he's following them. Like I said, her logic is flawed. I give you that much. I mean, we're talking about a female. Get away from us, you bitch. Then he turns around and just steals and runs off. That is what I would call a super simp. Your feelings have the density of wet toilet paper. Remember what I was talking about earlier? The two scenarios. You got the one guy groveling at her feet. Oh, come on, I'll give you the world. Just give me a chance. Hey, that's an example of simping. But the second scenario where the guy tries to holler and she's like, I don't want nothing to do with you, and he's like, whatever, and he walks off. Does that make him a simp because he tried to holler at her? No. He dusted off. He didn't just receive a spear through his heart because she turned him down. Not like this guy. This guy was so much in his feelings that he resorted to violence because this woman didn't want nothing to do with him. We have seen this over and over again, Antonio. I've talked about this in previous videos, cuz. This is something that I've talked about for years. You got millions of these guys walking the streets of our communities right now. Walking around with their chests out like they just whore. A female turns them down and they're ready to commit murder. They're ready to knock them out. They're ready to resort to violence. And you wouldn't call that a simp? No, man. There's definitely some simp shit, cuz. Now, what I'm gonna ask you is this right here. I'm gonna challenge you. If you believe that that's not being a simp, what would you call it? What would you call a guy resorting to violence because his feelings was that hurt over a stranger turning down his advances to where he resorts to violence? What would be the label that you would put on him? If he's not a simp, what would you call that? For me, you're a simp. Like I said, the second example I gave, the guy tries to holler, she's not interested, hey, get away from me, and he's like, whatever, and he walks off. He goes on about his business. She ain't just changed his life to where he was so hurt that he had to lash out at the world. Not like this simp. That's why I call this dude a simp. And we've seen this over and over again. There's millions of these super simps out here right now. You see, I've talked about this, like I said. These are the types of guys that makes it difficult for men to communicate with women. This type of shit right here. Come on, man. Women are walking around scared to death. Scared to death because they've seen this type of thing before. They've been through this type of thing before. They've heard of this type of thing a million times. So when it comes to cats like me and you, who's on the up and up, that's not going to resort to some bullshit like this, these type of clowns make it harder for us. The same way we talk about these guys that's ready to grovel and, oh, I'll give you the world and this and that, blowing these women's heads up to where you come around to the same woman and she expects the same behavior out of you. These clowns groveling on their knees, they make your life hard as well. Just like fools like this. That is why I call clowns like this super simps. It's a different level, but it's still simp. As a matter of fact, the first video I ever did on this channel was about a story like this. Not like this, though. I mean, he hit the woman. I mean, it was a violent story. Basically, what it was is that there was a guy that hollered at some chick. She ain't want nothing to do with it. You know what he did? He pulled out a gun and shot her dead. His feelings were so hurt. You know what I'm saying? I mean, his ego was so crumbled that this weak motherfucker pulled out a gun and killed this woman dead. That was the very first video I did on this channel. You see what I mean? That is why people like him and fools like this, as far as I'm concerned, are what I would call super simps. It's on a whole different level. See what I'm saying? So anyway, that's my explanation. I just thought that it would be an interesting conversation, y'all. Antonio Mosley, shout out to you, homie. Like I said, I challenge you. If you wouldn't call that simping, what would you call it? Anyway, I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.